You are coming to us from South Bend. You're the former mayor of that town. Let me ask you a version of the question I just asked Chris Christie on our roundtable. In the wake of this epidemic of deadly gun violence, if you were still mayor of South Bend right now, what would you be doing?
Well, the worst part of the job of being mayor is talking to families of people who have lost their loved ones and knowing that nothing you can do will bring those loved ones back. We have a horrific scourge of gun violence in this country. And, you know, as mayor, as every mayor is doing around the country, you take the steps that you can to reduce community violence, to invest in partnerships, to make sure that, that you've taken the steps you can locally. But you're also looking at Washington to say, will anything be different this time? Will we actually acknowledge the reasons why we are the only country, the only developed country, where this happens on a routine basis? And the idea that us being the only developed country where this happens routinely, especially in terms of the mass shootings, is somehow a result of the design of the doorways on our school buildings is the definition of insanity, if not the definition of denial.
I'm gonna be honest, I would be more upset about the obvious deflection that is the whole doors argument if it didn't betray just how desperate Republicans are to claw at anything rather than acknowledging that there is a gun problem in this country. Like, we are very, very clearly not the only country in the world with multiple entrances into buildings, and yet we are the only country that has daily mass shootings. And so maybe, given that we should probably have even a modicum of common sense, knowing that other countries have doorways and yet somehow manage to avoid these daily rampages, maybe it's not the doors. Just, you know, for starters. I mean, honestly, what an embarrassing excuse for the people who are so desperate to try to shove it down our throats. What a shamelessly disingenuous justification. It's like blaming t-shirts because the shooters are all wearing t-shirts, and not the fact that the only thing that sets us apart from every other place on the planet is that we have 400 million guns in this country. But sure, let's pretend it's the doors, because apparently no other country has those. And also, I'm sorry, but are we really pretending that locking the doors is some novel, foolproof plan? When the Sandy Hook shooter 10 years ago drove up to that elementary school, the very first thing he did was shoot his way through a window next to the locked security door, at which point he let himself in and began his rampage. I mean, let's be real here. Republicans' best solution is a plan that didn't even work 10 years ago? But let's just humor these Republicans for a moment who want us to think that unsecured doors are the real problem, okay? We make every building a one-entrance building. Now you've got hundreds or thousands of students collected at one choke point when they're coming or going. How do you keep them safe there? What about the windows? Again, the Sandy Hook shooter shot out a window to get access into that school, so do we then reinforce every window in the building with metal bars? There might be hundreds or thousands of windows per school. Do we install metal detectors at every entrance? What about when kids go outside for recess? Do we build a 14-foot wall around the property to keep those on the outside out? Or maybe, just maybe, instead of upending every aspect of our lives to conform to these mass shootings, we have some common sense and a fucking spine and take on the guns. Instead of guarding the doors and barring the windows and filling our schools with military and arming teachers and having canine units and doing lockdowns, instead of the guns dictating our lives, what if we just took on the guns? We are falling over ourselves to do nothing to disrupt the weapons and everything to inconvenience ourselves. How many armed guards do we need? How much money do we need to pour into reimagining our buildings before we realize that maybe the ones we should be punishing are not all of society and instead just the shooters? Like, imagine if Republicans didn't want to regulate traffic lights anymore, because we should be free to just keep driving and damn it, I will not give up my right to keep my foot on the gas. And sure, we'll have accidents every 5 or 10 seconds, but damn it, I have rights. And so we station ambulances at every corner. We set up little mobile hospital units at intersections. We start selling neck braces in every convenience store. Or, instead of creating an entire economy around car accidents, why don't we just take on the car accidents and regulate traffic lights? It seems really obvious, right? And yet here we are watching Americans get slaughtered by semi-automatic weapons on a daily basis in schools and grocery stores and concerts and churches and parking lots, and instead of taking on the guns, we're changing everything else. If it seems fucking insane, that's because it's fucking insane. And look, if you've watched my other videos, you've heard a lot of these points before. But for every time Republicans repeat their own asinine ideas of locking the doors, I will gladly repeat my reasons for why that is absolutely insane and beyond ineffective. They think they're gonna will their ideas into reality by virtue of repeating them over and over because it worked for build the wall and make America great again. But they're not the only ones who can say stuff over and over. And if that means I have to repeat on a daily basis why locking the doors makes them sound like absolute clowns, then that's exactly what I'll do. Republicans have relied for too long on knowing that if they just repeat their dumb ideas and slogans on a daily basis, that they'll eventually stick. But I have no intention of letting that happen this time. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And to support my work beyond that, check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I cover the week's most important stories and interview the biggest players in the world of politics, including President Biden, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, Katie Porter, and so many more. The link is also right here on this screen. And finally, to take action yourself and sign petitions on the most important issues, go to briantylercohen.com/petition.